Good evening.
Very good evening. On behalf of the senior leadership at Indus Trust, I extend a very warm welcome to our colleagues, attendees, and our elite speakers who have logged in from various parts of the world to be with us at the Indus International Ideation Colloquium, aimed at ideating a prototype for schools of the future. Under the leadership of Lieutenant General Ray, CEO and MD Indus Trust, we have successfully organized the Indus Ideation Colloquiums at the state and the national level in the past. The International Ideation Colloquium is a part of the Tri-Series Colloquiums aimed at bringing together stalwarts in education, education technology, and thought leaders under the same umbrella to ideate the future of schools in the 21st century. We are sincerely committed to the vision that school education needs to be transformed. In its present form, it is hopelessly outdated and does not prepare students to re-roll, relearn, reskill, and reinvent themselves continuously in the 21st century. The scope of talk for the panels and keynote sessions planned for this two-day colloquium aims to address, stimulate questions and ideas around the various possibilities, opportunities, and challenges that lie ahead in paving way to reimagine the school of the future. Before we begin, I would like to inform our audience that on the screen, you would have access to question and answer section. You do have an option to answer or post your questions anonymously. Please park your comments and questions in the Q&A section, and the colloquium moderators would share them with our speakers periodically. Your inputs and comments are valuable to us to ideate the school of the future. To deliver the opening address and mark the commencement of the Indus International Ideation Colloquium, set the concept and challenges, I'm honored to invite Lieutenant General Arjun Ray, the visionary behind the school of the future. A soldier, scholar, author, Lieutenant General Arjun Ray, Param Vishishta Seva Medal has wide-ranging experiences in matters of defense and conflict management. He also is deep-rooted with a passion for social transformation. He is the CEO and MD of Indus Trust and provides vision and strategic direction to all Indus international schools and institutions. Under his leadership, Indus has grown from strength to strength with establishing India's first equal opportunity community school, Startup U for Life Entrepreneurship, and Eagle Robot Lab to develop artificial intelligence technology to coexist with humans through an indigenous principle of the collaborative learning model. General Ray is of the firm belief that the purpose of education is to prepare students to be startup ready, that is to make them future ready where they're outliers, exponential leaders, innovative individuals, and lifelong learners who succeed in the VUCA Plus world. IB recognizes General Ray as one of the top 6 world school leaders in rethinking education and making it equitable and affordable. I welcome you, sir.
Distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to deliver the opening introductory talk to our third colloquium to design a prototype for what the school of the future should look like. There is universal acknowledgement that K-12 education has failed. Irrespective of what curriculum schools are running, K-12 education has failed to deliver. We are not educating children to possess 21st century competencies. We are educating ourselves to catastrophe. Apathy, inertia, and lack of inspirational directions are holding us back. The challenges in transforming K-12 education are as difficult as the challenges of climate change. And this is because of 2 primary vested interests. The stubborn resistance by all stakeholders, schools, teachers, students, and parents, to understand a very simple fact that children need to be equipped with creative and entrepreneurial competencies to succeed in life, not content knowledge and rote memorization. And secondly, there is a lot of ambiguity on the role of technology in education, and therefore the inability to bring about digital transformation. I firmly believe that a new exponential and inclusive vision for school education is required to navigate ourselves successfully and happily in this 21st century. We need to reimagine education as there is no scope for incrementalism. But this is a point which must run throughout the thread of the colloquium, that there is no time for incremental, this homeopathic approach, capacity building approach. We have to just move very quickly and start hitting the ball and strategizing later. We need to educate millions of children for the innovation age, because if we do not reimagine education, we are doomed. Interestingly enough, well before the start of all the colloquiums, I postulated 6 assumptions. At the end of this colloquium, we will ask ourselves this question: were these assumptions of mine valid? Number 1, technology is not a tool. It is an extension of the human nervous system today and more so tomorrow in the metaverse world. Secondly, the digital medium of learning is not a substitute. It is an alternative form of learning which is non-linear. Thirdly, and this is possibly is going to raise hackles, future schools will be software companies. And the mantra of the software company will be human intelligence plus artificial intelligence equals innovative intelligence. Fourthly, children will not go to schools, schools will go to children. Fifthly, algorithms will replace teachers to deliver content. And lastly, as Marshall McLuhan, the famous Canadian philosopher and media guru, said, the medium is the message. You develop the characteristics of the medium you use the most. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to emphasize on the characteristics of this 4th industrial age that we are living in. And then we must ask ourselves this great question: whether the curriculum which we are living in the schools is preparing our children to meet the challenges of the 4th industrial revolution. This, I believe, is the start point and the end point of all discussions as far as the school of the future is concerned. There is a constant state of VUCA, the age of chaos and uncertainty. Secondly, we are experiencing exponential growth of exponential technologies that are reshaping every aspect of our lives, from politics to economics, to our homes, to our relationships. While they are global, non-linear, and are doubling every 12 to 24 months, schools remain local, linear, and status quo. It might interest you to know that in 1900, human knowledge doubled every 100 years. And now, according to IBM, knowledge is doubling every 12 hours. By the time we finish the colloquium tomorrow, knowledge in the world would have doubled exponentially. Moreover, the very meaning of knowledge in the 21st century has been reimagined. From knowledge about to knowledge to do, knowledge to be, and knowledge to become. Thirdly, we are witnessing an awesome rate of acceleration and change because of automation and the explosion of knowledge. Let me give you a few examples. Digital information is increasing 10 times every 5 years. Social media is doubling every year, and according to one estimate, this year, that is 2022, which is just around the corner, we will require an additional 102 days of learning in school to keep pace with the changing world of work. That means if schools today are doing 200 working days in a year, they will now require 302 working days to meet the challenge and keep pace with the world of work. Fourthly, managing change is becoming even more challenging because the rate of acceleration is doubling every 10 years. It may interest you to know that those who are 10 years old today in grade 5, they will be experiencing 1 year of change in 11 days. That is the awesome rate of acceleration that we are having. Fourthly, innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship will continue to drive economic growth, human growth in the innovation economy we are living in. And I strongly believe that the end objective of schools should be and must be and will be to prepare future citizens as moral man, innovation man, and economic man. And lastly, the Metaverse has already arrived and it is around the corner. We can see it over the hill. The implications of Metaverse on education are going to be profound. And I'm not forecasting anything, but I will at least outline the probabilities of what could happen. Brick and mortar schools will be replaced by digital campuses. Learning will no longer be confined to the digital campus. The campus will be part of a global economic system, an ecosystem. That is where real learning will happen, not in the classroom, but outside the classroom. Blended learning has already become the future of education. Learning will be learner-centric, not teacher-centric, with avatars, virtual and immersive technologies taking care of experiential learning. VR, AR, blockchain, gamification are the vanguard of the metaverse, which has already arrived. Competencies and life skills will be experienced by teachers live, outside the campus, and through simulations. And lastly, something which is a matter of great concern, or should be a matter of great concern, is schools will have to give priority to educational research. Today, there is no educational research happening at a school level anywhere in the world, even college level. At university level, yes. And this is something very, very important to keep pace with the changing world. Continuous research must happen. I will now emphasize why education reforms have failed, because this is some sort of an indication as to how do we move through this murky waters that we are facing today. The first reason, which is, I feel, the most vital reason, is the problem is not technology. It is cultural. The anti-reform mindset of teachers all over the world, a mindset that has developed from the 16th century onwards. It is estimated that globally about 44% edtech company startups fail because of non-cooperation of teachers and schools. In essence, the teacher mindset from the 16th century onwards, that is after the Gutenberg press was invented, has not kept pace with changes throughout history. Secondly, there is a lot of ambiguity about the role of technology in education. We are very ambivalent about it. And I wish to highlight 4 points in this regard. Technology is not a tool. Technology is not there to replace teachers or to assist them, because technology is best employed when it replaces certain functions of the teacher that are repetitive and routine, in order to enable the teacher to teach the child and not the subject alone. We should listen carefully to the advice given by Agent Smith in the film Matrix. And he says, never send a human to do a machine's job. I repeat, never send a human to do a machine's job. It makes no sense, ladies and gentlemen, for human teachers to do things that machines will do better and more effectively. Secondly, technology is most effective when it is part of an ecosystem comprising students, teachers, industry, community, whatever. Thirdly, technology is not intended to enable students to consume content. Today, our kids are only consuming content. They're consumers. Rather, technology must help students to create content. That is why creativity and innovation comes in there, and take ownership for their learning. And lastly, I think this is a very, very important aspect which I wish to drive home. The three R's. They were coined in the beginning of the 19th century. And some people say that it even goes back to St. Augustine. Reading, writing, and arithmetic have been considered as the basic skills for learning. In the 21st century, this is an incomplete understanding for learning. Today, digital literacy in a world driven by technology is a key competency for learning. It has to be formally taught like mathematics, like literature, like any other subject. So digital literacy is not being computer savvy. It includes digital citizenship, digital fluency, creating immersive experiences, data-mindedness, ethics, which Professor Ben Israel will be talking shortly after I finish. It is about evaluating whether information is fake or real and creating media content. If you look at this perspective of digital literacy, most schools today are under-digitalized. Consequently, we are not seeing any evidence of digital transformation. The third reason why reforms have failed is most educationists and teachers do not understand the meaning and importance of what is personalization of learning. It is being mistaken for adaptive learning. Adaptive learning uses softwares and algorithms to deliver customized resources to address the unique needs of each learner. But, ladies and gentlemen, learning is not restricted to content knowledge. Today, Google does a better job of content knowledge than any human teacher can do. In its wider application, learning is more about learning about oneself. And that is why I call the moral man, the spiritual man, which is becoming more and more important in this VUCA world that we are living in over there. So it is learning about oneself to discover one's uniqueness, one's identity. Who am I? Life's purpose, tikkun olam, one's potential, one's aspirations. Personalization can be summed up as in the temple of Apollo in Delphi as know thyself. And the fourth reason, and this is more relevant for Asian societies and African societies, that we must stop our focus on changing standardized tests in India, Korea, Shanghai, wherever. We must now start focusing on winning the innovation race. Now, I've got the statistics for 2021, and what is not understood, and Professor Zhao is going to talk about it at great length, is that there is an inverse relationship between GPS scores and innovation. Please look at this slide very carefully. You see the number of Nobel Prizes? These are the countries, China, Japan, Korea, India, Singapore, which are fixated, obsessively fixated on scoring 100 out of 100. And what Professor Yong Zhao is going to bring out, and what is now the practice in many companies like Google and all the trillion-dollar companies, is that they are not interested in your GPA scores at all. They don't even invite your GPA scores for your application. They want to know whether you're innovative. Research by Google, the New York University, and in China, they conclude two very important deductions from this slide. The more students and countries focus on test scores, the less creative they are, and therefore less employable in the future. And secondly, the higher the grade point average, the lower is the student's interest in innovation. Obviously, he's busy rote memorizing his content knowledge to score 100 out of 100. This is why, as I said, Google no longer asks for transcripts and test scores because they don't predict anything. Chinese high school graduates who top scores on Gaokao, the Chinese entrance examination higher education, achieved less than those who scored lower. Therefore, the essence of the education philosophy for 2030, we can look at about 9 years from today. This is the third and final colloquium to ideate a prototype, a minimum viable product for the school of the future. Futurists do not predict the future. They look at possible futures. In this world of uncertainty and volatility, there can be no single future. There will be multiple futures, depending on our culture, depending upon the accessibility of technology, the political will of the country, and more importantly, the leadership of educational leaders in a society. The key essence of this philosophy, which we will be discussing during the colloquium, starts with the purpose of education, which we believe is to prepare each child to be life entrepreneur. A person who is going to be future ready, a person who is going to be climate ready, a person who is going to be life ready. Life skills will equip students to be innovative, moral, and possess requisite competencies to continuously upskill, reskill themselves, seek a higher purpose, discover their potential, and to reinvent themselves continuously. Our concept prototype of the school of the future starts with social justice and social equity. We cannot be sitting on islands of opulence and excellence and continue to pontificate what the world should look like. We have to take along the millions of people who are less privileged. Social justice and social equity will give greater opportunities to all sections of society and reduce the slanted bias of what I would call as meritocracy, the tyranny of merit and social divide. Quality education should be accessible and affordable to children, regardless of their social class or geographical location. The school of the future will be established on a digital campus where knowledge will be taught collaboratively, content by algorithms, innovative competencies by teachers, and deep learning through exponential technologies. The mantra will be human intelligence plus artificial intelligence equals innovative intelligence. Teachers will re-roll themselves to teach the child and not the subject alone. Teachers now should become learning designers and shall use big data and blockchain to enable continuous learning and personalization as well. And lastly, education must inculcate a strong sense of purpose and a keen awareness of ethical behavior to create an economic man, an innovation man, and a moral man. A person who seeks economic well-being while being conscious of higher purpose through responsibility to the world. I will now conclude my address. The agenda for schools and teachers of the future may seem formidable, but it is necessary and advisable that we embrace, we personalize, and actualize it at every step. Embracing these changes in social education, in school education, is imperative. In order to bring about the transformation of K-12 education to meet the needs of the 21st century, two interdependent paths, in my thinking, will have to be followed. They are interdependent, they are intertwined. The route for digital transformation and the route for developing life skills to succeed in a future we do not know. We sincerely hope you will ideate, share your views and perspectives to help us to come up with a minimum viable product in January 2022. This minimum viable product will be a scaled down version of the School of the Future to be usable by early customers who can then provide us feedback for further product development over there. We are going to experiment the faculty of the School of the Future. We have an Indus Training and Research Institute in Bangalore for pre-service and in-service training. A very large number of graduates are in our 3 schools and in several, I would call them Ivy League schools of our country. We will select a panel of 10 to 12 of them and we'll induct them as part of the faculty for the School of the Future. With these few words, opening remarks of mine, I invite Professor Ben Israel, whom we had the pleasure of meeting in Tel Aviv, a very distinguished man in his own country, a very famous general, a very famous parliamentarian, a very famous professor, a man who heads the National Council on Artificial Intelligence, and who's the chairman of the Israeli Space Agency. I mean, he's a polymath. And I remember his last words to us when he spoke to us in the Tel Aviv University. He said that in artificial intelligence, 30% of the syllabus must be directed towards ethics. Those words have left a deep impact on our minds. And with this, I invite Professor Ben Israel to share his thoughts, his experiences, to make the School of the Future a possibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, General Ray.